All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Saturday stream. It's so good to see you guys out there. Those of you who are live watching with me, an extra special thank you for showing up today. Really great to see you. And today, let's just jump right into it. There's a topic that really kind of hits near and dear to my heart, which is a tale of two investors. One investor who takes their returns from all of their investment property and puts it back into investment property, and then one who kind of harvests all of those returns, right? And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out which side of the fence that I'm on and that I advocate for. But I just wanted to take a minute to kind of go and delve a little bit deeper into how important this concept really is. Whether you're investing in stocks and bonds or businesses or real estate, I think this is a really, really important concept to understand. And so I want to make sure that we explore it properly. So first of all, for the sake of real estate investing, here's what we're going to do, right? Let's assume that you have two identical investors starting out, okay? They both have the same amount of knowledge, connections, and resources, and they both have enough money to be able to invest about $25,000 per year on one house in one property, okay? So let's put the scenario in front of you that each of these investors, they both end up buying one property per year for 4 years. So at the end of 4 years, they both have 4 houses, and they put $25,000 down, which means that they have a $100,000 house, 4 of them. And one investor decides, you know what, that's good enough. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to harvest my earnings. I've worked hard enough. I'm just going to go ahead and start enjoying some of that. Whereas the other investor says, you know what, no, I think my lifestyle is good enough. I am doing this for my future. So I'm going to delay a little bit of gratification here. And I'm going to just go ahead and put all of my earnings back into more real estate, back into more property, right? So you take all the cash flow and all the appreciation from all the properties and then reinvest them to buy more properties later, right? Where do you think after about 10 years, the difference is in net value or net worth increase between the two investors and also the cash flow between the two? Do you think that it's 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x? Well, if you guessed 5x, the answer is absolutely correct. That is what we're looking at right here. And that's an amazing difference in value. As a matter of fact, the difference is really, really astounding. And it's no surprise to me personally, because I know about the power of compound interest. And I'm sure many of you are also aware of how strong a force that can be if it's on your side. If you're paying debt out and it's being compounded against you, that's not a good thing. But if you have it working for you, that is the amazing thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can explore this just a little bit more. And again, this is another image from my book, Part-Time Real Estate Investing for Full-Time Professionals. As a matter of fact, it's right up there. There we go. I can't quite point to it when everything's reversed on the camera. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I want to share my screen right now. And so I will show this to you guys. All right, so you guys should be able to see right here where we've got a tale of two investors. And so I've got this up on the screen. You can say that there's Mr. Harvest, which is the black line, right? And the black descriptions down here below. And then you've got Mr. Reinvest, which is the red lines. And the red lines are obviously going way, way up in the future, right? And what we did was we assumed, all right, the $100,000 house that we just talked about, you've got 25% down payment, and that goes up every year by 3%. So in year 2, we're assuming that in order to purchase the house, you're going to have to put in a little bit of an extra down payment, $25,750, right? That's 3% more. And then the houses, they get more expensive each year by 3%. Let's assume for safety's sake that your mortgage interest is 5%. And I know nowadays you might be able to actually get that much lower at around 3 3/4 or maybe 4 1/4, somewhere in that area as of the date of this recording right now. And let's assume that you have a 30-year mortgage and it's $1,000 a month coming in, which isn't that unusual for a Midwestern property in my markets in Indianapolis and Cleveland. And then you've got rental expenses of $500 and then your mortgage payments $403. So you're only making about $100 a month in cash flow every single month, right? But that cash flow every month saved up and reinvested can turn into a huge waterfall later on, right? And we're going to get into that in just a second. So as each year goes by, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, one investor, which is Mr. Harvest, just stops buying houses after that. They invested almost $100,000, maybe $105,000 total into 4 houses that got them $400,000 worth of real estate. They go ahead and proceed to take all of the rental income from it and just leave the equity inside the properties and let the debt get paid down, right? And over time, those 4 houses at the end of 10 years will be worth $130,000 each, which means $522,000 of equity. There's all kinds of cash flow also that comes out of that we're just kind of disregarding. And so the total net worth increase is basically due only to the appreciation and just holding the properties and then the debt pay down. So that's with that. Now, investor B, on the other hand, the person who wants to reinvest, does the same thing. He stops at 4 houses, but instead of taking money out of his pocket to reinvest in more houses, now he's taking the cash flow and the equity that builds up from all the houses each year. And every time he comes up with $25,000 in total, that means from the cash flow savings. So he's setting aside all the cash flow, he's putting it in a separate bank account. And then also when the equities climb to a certain point where he's got enough equity plus cash flow to buy another house, he does that. He refinances everything and then puts his hard-earned equity into another property. And never does he ever go above 25%, above 75% loan to value. So he's not over leveraging, okay? And because of that, because of the fact that you're getting more and more properties earlier and earlier on, you can kind of see how this curve starts to really take a shape of its own and starts going upwards, right? It's true that you're not taking any cash flow for yourself to be able to consume, but look what's happening here. At the end of year 10, you will be able to basically say, oh, now instead of having $522,000 worth of real estate in the 4 houses that I had originally purchased back a long time ago, 7 years ago, now I'm at a point where I have $2.87 million worth of houses. 22 houses is what it ends up turning out to be if you do that the correct way, where you save up all of the cash flow every month and you refinance all of the equity into more properties as soon as you have the equity requirement to do that, okay? This is pretty amazing stuff. And so a simple shift in mindset, you can see how powerful this effect is, right? And this is the key. This is what a lot of successful real estate investors do, okay? And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared this concept with you, how powerful it can be for just saying, okay, instead of harvesting all of the returns, this is a business that I'm going to go ahead and put money into for quite a long time, and I'm not going to touch it for a while. And having that patience certainly pays off, because if you can do this for a long time or do something consistent for a very, very long time, you can have something that eventually retires you and you don't even have to work a full-time job. It just takes consistent effort and the right view, the right perspective, okay? So that's what I wanted to share with you here. I know that it seems really crazy, right? So I wanted to expand on it a little bit more before we end the stream here. How in the world does this happen? It doesn't really seem real, does it, right? So, I read a story one time, okay? The story that I read was in the book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it's a fantastic read. And inside that book, there was a father who is getting up in age and he's on his deathbed, and he has 2 sons, and he wants to give his sons pretty much his estate. And he gives the sons 2 options. One option is that they can take $1 million straight from the inheritance and just take that, and that's their inheritance. The other option is to take the safe with a penny in it, and the key is that every day that penny would double in value for 30 days. And which would be the smarter choice, right? One son ends up taking the $1 million and starts going off and spending that money right away and has a great couple of years enjoying that money. And then the other son takes, knowing what he was doing because he did some of the math, takes the penny and watches it double. And over time, as the older son looks at the younger son saying, look at all this money. Why did you take the penny? Because that's not going to amount to much. Why did you make that mistake? It's just not right. And it turns out that according to the math, the younger son who took the penny was absolutely in the right, because that option was the best way to go. And I'm going to show you what that means here visually as well. So let me show you what that looks like. So again, here's what we looked at before. Now, this is it right here. You start with a penny in day 1, and every day you double. And because of compound interest, by day 30, you end up with over $5 million. As a matter of fact, by day 28, that's only when things start to really, really look up, right? When you're passing for 27 days, you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, well, there's no real traction. And so you can see this huge growth curve, right? That goes up because of compound interest. The same amount of return, the returns getting put into the same place and being compounded over and over again can really, really make a huge, huge difference. So again, compound interest is very, very powerful. It puts money back into the place where it's compounded. And so the dollars that come in, or the money that comes in from the interest, that starts to build interest itself. And then that money, the original money that had interest on it, now it earns more interest. And so pretty soon you're earning interest on top of interest, and it just takes like I said, a life of its own. And so it's really, really powerful. And being able to do that inside of the real estate realm is what we live for. This is why we do everything that we do. We want to be able to create a business that operates on its own, and that's a business that can take care of itself, right? And so if we have the systems and the mechanisms set in place to be able to do that, that's what it's all for. Now, the last thing that I want to get into, okay, is how can you be like Mr. Invest and Mr. Reinvest and not Mr. Harvest? Okay, and there's a few things here that, as you might imagine, it's all mindset, right? So the first thing that I think you really need to do is, number one, have a clear vision of what you're committed to. Have a clear vision. Picture that in your head and understand what it is that you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. And so if you want to retire yourself from your job, then you may have to visualize yourself working pretty hard for a couple of years, for at least 4, 5, 6 years, and doing exactly what Mr. Reinvest does, buying a house consistently and taking consistent action over time and continuously honing your skills so that you can easily do what the business requires you to do over time as situations and, as the environment changes, right? You're changing with the environment. And so you're able to continue your investing over a medium to long-term period of time. That's number one, clear vision. And then number two, if you need to, I would highly recommend that you set up a budget and get on board with your spouse, right? If you're married, that's awesome. Get on board with your spouse. That'll help your communication. That's for another day, but definitely get on board with your spouse. Build up a savings plan or build an investment seed plan. And so make sure that you are setting aside a certain amount of dollars every month with a target for how much you want to invest every year and how much your returns you're going to be targeting. And just build a plan out and say, here's what our map is, right? If we want to be able to reinvest everything and hit our returns and hit our goal of retiring in 10 years, back that out. Start using your spreadsheets and get yourself involved. And if you don't know how to do that, let me know. I may be able to provide some tips and hints for you to help back out what your number is to try to get to retirement. And just make sure that you're always asking questions. Number three is be networking and learning. Always ask questions with other people that are maybe a little bit further ahead in the path than you are, or have been there and done that and maybe have some more experience in investment vehicles. I think that's really, really important, okay? And then the very last thing that I would say for those of you out there who want to be like Mr. Reinvest is to be active. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because this is a long-term game and making mistakes is part of the process of learning, okay? So if you were to at least control some of your mistakes, right? So that you're not making these gigantic mistakes that's going to take you out of the game completely and make you go bankrupt. That's not what I recommend. What I do recommend is making smart decisions, but also taking risk, right? Like take a little bit of risk just so that you can learn a little bit. And even if you get all of your money out and you break even, you are taking that knowledge onto the next deal as long as you're consistent, right? You're taking that knowledge with you and you won't make that same mistake again. And every time you do that, you're going to continue to pile on more experience and get better at what you do, okay? So that's basically it in a nutshell. Make sure if you guys are interested in becoming more like Mr. Reinvest, that's my realm. And so please just go ahead and type in the comments what it is that's holding you up that from being that person. And I would love to be able to help you. Maybe we can set aside a one-on-one conversation to talk through how that happens and maybe some mindset things and what might need to change. And so please just reach out to us. We also have a website as well, elevateequity.org. Many of you guys probably have seen it already. Feel free to go out on there and check out some of our blog posts. There's some great tips and advice about starting out investing in real estate. Or you can just set a time to sit down with us and talk with us. And then you always have the book as well, which is, I'm never going to get this right here. Right here. And all you got to do is type in my name, Derek Clifford, in the Amazon search bar, and that should show up. And we're looking forward to hearing more from you. There's also going to be a podcast. Actually, the podcast is out there already where Sophie and I sit down and talk with really great investors, people who have been doing this for a very long time, and try to break it down and figure out what their routines and habits and success gems of wisdom are. And really great to get some inspiration from there and also see how people who are so far down the line, how they did it starting out as well. So hopefully that's useful for you guys. I'm here for you. Comment on Facebook and YouTube whether or not you had got something out of this or you have any questions. I'm here to help you guys. And so with that, I'll go ahead and let you guys have the rest of your weekend. And so enjoy and let's talk. Have a fantastic Saturday, everyone. Take care.